Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member for Carleton.
Speaker, allow me to quote the Prime Minister. I am looking straight at Canadians and being honest, the way I always have. We have said we are committed to balanced budgets, and we are. We will balance the budget in 2019. Well, Mr. Speaker, despite a booming world economy and tax increases on the middle class, on average $800 a family, the deficit is 3 times what he promised and growing next year. So when will the budget balance itself?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in 2015, Canadians had a choice. There were 2 parties that believed in cuts, while we promoted investments for the middle class and those working hard to join it. We have lowered taxes for the middle class by raising them on the wealthiest 1%. We have delivered a more generous, fair and tax-free Canada Child benefit, and we now have the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years. While Conservatives have no plan for the economy, we will stay focused on the middle class.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians voted in the last election for a balanced budget in 2019. That was his promise. Yet, despite the fact that taxes are up on the middle class by about $800 a family, this Prime Minister has failed to keep his promise. Now, he loves to brag about his big family fortune, but Canadians who didn't inherit a trust fund understand that budgets do not balance themselves. So simply put, when will the budget be balanced?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it seems the member opposite is having trouble with the facts. The average Canadian family is actually $2,000 better off every year because of decisions we have taken on this side of the House. After Stephen Harper's anemic levels of growth, which you had to return to the depths of the Great Depression to find a government with that bad record on growth, we've grown the economy at an average of around 3%. We've created over 700,000 new jobs over the past 3 years, and we had the best economic growth in the G7 last year, Mr. Speaker. We're continuing to invest in Canadians. That's what Canadians voted.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Actually, the Conservative government had the best economic growth and the lowest debt levels in the G7, and we came roaring back with 1 million new jobs after the great global recession. We also had the best middle-class income growth in 40 years, according to the most recent Liberal budget. So he can spread falsehoods about the past. What he should do is tell the truth about the future. He said the budget would balance itself in 2019. He's breaking that promise. So when will we have a balanced budget? When?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in 2015, we committed to supporting the middle class and those working hard to join it. Middle-class families today are better off than they were under the Conservatives, and they're finding it easier to make ends meet. With our plan, a strong and growing middle class is driving economic growth, creating new jobs and more opportunities for everyone to compete and succeed. But we know there's more work to do. We will continue to invest in our communities, invest in Canadians, and grow the middle class. What is becoming clearer every day is that the Conservatives have absolutely no plan for the economy.
The honourable member, order please. The honourable member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, it's less than 2 years before the next election, and the Liberals' accumulated deficit stands at $80 billion. Who is going to pay? Well, Canadians will pay more taxes in future, more specifically our children and our grandchildren who are going to pay the federal credit card bill. Why? Because this Prime Minister believes that the budget will balance itself as if by magic. So my question is simple for the Prime Minister. When are we going to balance the budget again? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to remind the members, the member across and the Conservative team, that they are the ones who added $150 billion to the national debt. They are the ones who had the worst economic growth since the Great Depression. We have committed to invest in growth, invest in the middle class. That's exactly what we did. We now have the lowest unemployment rate in the history of this country. And we have the best G7 growth last year. The honourable member, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister can repeat and repeat the same song over and over again. He's wrong. I have here in my hands the Liberal platform, and it says, black on white, at the end of the next 2 fiscal years, the deficit will fall, and under our investment plan, Canada will have a balanced budget in 2019. The Prime Minister repeated this during the 2015 campaign on August 6, September 17 and 25, and October 2nd during the leaders' debate. So the question, when are we going to balance the budget? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, forget about singing the same song. We made different choices than the Conservatives. We decided to invest in Canadians, in infrastructure, in the middle class. We decided to focus on economic growth, and our economic growth was better than under the Conservatives, and we promised to create jobs. That's exactly what we did. We now have the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years. We have created 700,000 new jobs in 3 years. This is what we are going to continue to do. To invest in Canadians and in their future.
Not to be yelling when someone else has the floor. I'm sure she knows that's not permitted. Honorable député de Rimouski.
The honourable member. From 2014 to 2016, the U.S. circumvented supply management by exporting their Daiya-filtered milk to Canada. The Liberals did not do anything, so the dairy producers signed a separate agreement with the large processors. But after the Liberals signed the new free trade agreement, Americans were able to have unlimited access to our market. And Daiya-filtered milk is not part of supply management. Liberals claim to be helping our dairy producers, but will they actually compensate them for future losses of $200 million? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we said we would protect supply management. That's exactly what we did. We also announced the creation of 3 working groups made up of the stakeholders in the supply management sector with an objective to compensating dairy producers and processors to help them adapt to the free trade agreements that have been signed. We have promised to help the sector, to help it innovate. We protected supply management and long-term access to the American market. We will keep on working with dairy producers to ensure that the future is secure. The honourable member, I don't understand. I said Daiya-filtered milk is not part of the supply management system. For 3 years now, dairy producers have waited for compensation after we signed these 3 free trade agreements. In the economic update, there is no mention of compensation for dairy producers. It's not better when it comes to aluminum and steel tariffs. It's been months that they've been in place, and some of our companies say they will have to close. Many jobs are at stake. The Liberals could have told Trump they would not sign the agreement if these tariffs were not removed. But the Liberals backed down. The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we signed the new free trade agreement because it was good for Canada, good for our workers, and good for our companies. But not only I am saying so. The member for Rosemont, La Petite Patrie, said so as well. He told Canadian negotiators, congratulations to you all in this room for the excellent work you've accomplished. He then added that the agreement was the best agreement possible and that it protects Canadian workers across the country. That's exactly what we had promised. Stability, protection of jobs, future growth, and
workers, small businesses and farmers are paying the heavy price of the Liberals' decision to sign the new NAFTA. Giving access to U.S. dairy compromises our supply managed system and hurts our farmers. Canadian farmers want to be able to produce and sell their milk without U.S. interference, and families want to be able to purchase milk made in Canada that they can trust. Farmers can't understand why they were sold out by this Liberal government. Why have Liberals betrayed farm families and our food security in Canada?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, we said we would protect supply management, and that is exactly what we did. Its future is no longer in doubt. We have also announced 3 working groups comprised of representatives from the supply management sector. 2 of the working groups will collaborate to fairly support dairy farmers and processors adjust to the updated NAFTA as well as to CPTPP, while also charting a path to help the dairy sector innovate. Supply management is protected, all the while securing long-term access to the U.S. market.
The Honourable Member for Essex.
This Prime Minister doesn't have a clue about the uncertainty our workers are facing. Just yesterday, he admitted that steel and aluminum tariffs need to go. But what's confusing is why he still went ahead and signed the new NAFTA. The reason, according to the Prime Minister, to make investors and big businesses happy. These are the Liberals' true colours, Mr. Speaker, standing up for the richest corporations and failing to stand up for our workers. And worse, they have no strategy to remove these tariffs. They just want to wait and see. Do Liberals not understand that every day these tariffs remain is another day where jobs are threatened?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the attacks in this House by the NDP on the renewed NAFTA are just a perfect example of how the NDP says one thing in this House, but behind closed doors, they admit that it's a deal that protects Canadian jobs. The NDP leader celebrated the deal at an event a few weeks ago, and the NDP member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie, who is also the NDP Quebec lieutenant, called the updated NAFTA the best deal possible. Even the NDP privately admits that this deal is a good deal because they know it protects millions of Canadian jobs that were under threat.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, Liberals are seeing that the Prime Minister's word is not worth anything. In 2015, he promised 3 small deficits, but now we've had 3 big deficits. That we were promised a balanced budget in 2019, but it'll be the year of the $20 billion deficit. It's a monumental failure, and it is a failure because of the Prime Minister. So a very simple question. Can the Prime Minister tell us when the budget will be balanced? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the member for Louis Saint Laurent wants to talk about monumental failures, he should look at the 10 years under the Conservative government. It was a monumental failure across the board. Bad employment creation record, incomes went down, bad for the economy. The economy was doing so bad that during the 2015 election campaign, there was talk that Canada was in a recession. And now we have the biggest economic growth in the G7. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. I will always be proud to have been part of a party which showed Canada the way through the worst world recession. And we did very well as the G7 country during those years. I would like to remind my colleague that he was elected in 2015. The Prime Minister promised, hand on his heart, that the budget would be balanced in 2015, but that promise was not kept. Since the Prime Minister refuses to answer, can the member for Louis Hébert tell us exactly when the budget will be balanced? The Honourable Member. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was very clear in 2015 our commitment towards Canadians was not to take the approach which failed miserably our economy under the Conservatives when they made it impossible for Canada to prosper. They had the worst economic record on basically every sector since World War II. We are investing in infrastructure. We have reduced inequality, given more to the middle class. It's working. We have the best growth within the G7 in the last year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I must remind the Honourable Member for Portneuf, Jacques Cartier, please not to shout in the House while others are speaking.
Bridges, Richmond Hill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister vowed that he would deliver big infrastructure projects and balance the budget next year. But now we know he has no intention of doing either. Even with the recent job losses and a destabilized energy sector, the Liberals continue to spend taxpayers' dollars on their every whim, failing to heed the economic storm on the horizon. When will this Prime Minister admit that budgets don't balance themselves brace our economy for the tough times ahead, and balance the budget.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Canadians clearly rejected in 2015 the Conservative plan, which was austerity and cuts, which didn't work, which didn't create the kind of growth that Canadian expects, which didn't result in more money in the pockets of the middle class because they focused on the wealthiest. We took a different approach, Mr. Speaker, investing in our communities, giving more money to the middle class, lowering taxes of the middle class, while raising them on the wealthiest 1% to deliver for Canadians, and the results speak for themselves. 700,000 jobs created in the last 3 years, and our debt to GDP ratio is steadily going down, Mr. Speaker. We're in the best fiscal position in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the facts do indeed speak for themselves. Foreign capital is leaving. Corporations are not investing, and jobs are being lost. Canadians aren't fooled. They know that spending money that we don't have today with zero results will mean severe cuts to critical services tomorrow when we need them the most. When will the Prime Minister stop failing Canadians with his reckless spending and do what every hardworking Canadian must do, balance the books?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as I've mentioned, our debt to GDP ratio is steadily going down. We're in the best fiscal position in the G7, and that's because we've managed to see growth in this country over the last 3 years with a plan that is working. Unlike the Conservatives who failed on all economic fronts for a decade, Mr. Speaker, we're seeing 700,000 full-time jobs created in the Canadian economy over the last 3 years, the fastest growth in the G7, and Canadian families by this time next year will be $2,000 better off than they were under the previous government, who focused so much on the wealthiest but so very little on the middle class.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack, Hope.
This Prime Minister has never had to worry about a paycheck. He's never had to wonder about how he was going to put food on the table. He's never faced an unexpected expense that he couldn't pay. His inherited family fortune has taken care of everything for him. And since he's never had to worry about his own money, he's not worried about spending Canadian tax monies either. He's racking up a huge bill that somebody else will have to pay for, just like they have his entire life. So can the Prime Minister finally tell us, when will the budget balance itself?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, that's a little rich coming from the Conservatives, who added $150 billion to Canada's debt and who gave tax break after tax break to the wealthiest Canadians. We took a different approach, lowering taxes for the middle class, improving the Canada Child Benefit, lifting 300,000 kids out of poverty. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to work alongside this Prime Minister, who's taken to make sure that Canada remains a fair and just society for all, and that prosperity is shared by all. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Chilliwack, Hope.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister took money away from Canadians while maintaining his own nannies. Canadians without trust funds have to make tough choices each month. They sit at their kitchen tables and decide what they can afford and what they can't pay for. They know they can't live off their credit cards forever. They know how difficult it is to pay off their debt. The Prime Minister knows none of these things. When will he finally agree to stop mortgaging our children's future and tell us, when will the budget balance itself?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've stated in a previous answer, our debt to GDP ratio is steadily going down, Mr. Speaker. We're in the best fiscal position in the G7, and the facts are clear, Mr. Speaker. We lowered taxes for the middle class, raised them on the wealthiest 1%. They voted against it. We improved the Canada Child Benefit, lifting hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty in this country and giving more money to the middle class. They voted against it, Mr. Speaker. It begs the question, they say we raised taxes. The only taxes we raised were on the wealthiest 1%. And is that what they're so concerned about, Mr. Speaker? I guess that's what it is.
Honourable.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, business at the airport in Montreal is going well. Profits are up, the number of passengers are up, and the airport is expanding. Yet the CEO has asked 93 employees to agree to a pay cut of 27 to 33%. Otherwise, they will be laid off and subcontractors will be hired. This is happening just before Christmas. Nobody would agree to such an offer. Will the Liberals defend those workers, or will they again be the government of management?
Mr. Speaker, our government believes in a fair and balanced approach to labour relations in Canada, and that's why we repealed Bill C-525 and 377, which were the Harper Conservative anti-union bills, as one of the very first things that we did when we came into office. We are aware of the situation at the Montreal airport, Mr. Speaker, and we're monitoring it very closely. Thank you.
Député de Jonquière.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, that's called privatization of our services. The Liberals are allowing the Montreal airport to privatize its operations when they themselves are the champions of privatization, but they backed down from that idea. To threaten employees with a pay cut of 27 to 33%, or they'll be laid off before Christmas, well, that's horrible. That's only possible because the federal government is refusing to protect good jobs. How many good jobs will be lost before the Minister of Labour will end subcontracting in our public airports?
Well, Mr. Speaker, on the topic of contract flipping, in fact, that's something that we're working on through the new decent work legislation that was approved through BIA Act, Implementation Act 2. On the topic of labour disputes and labour negotiations, you know our government stands behind fair and balanced approaches to labour negotiations, and we're monitoring the situation very closely. Thank you.
Honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, under Conservatives, well over 8,000 kilometres of pipeline were built. The Liberals talk and talk, but they've deliberately blocked over 7,000 kilometres of pipelines already. And there are no more pipelines. Bill C-69 will guarantee that not a single kilometre of new pipeline is built in Canada again. That Liberal-made crisis harms all of Canada. Provinces, economists, industry and Indigenous leaders are all warning of the damaging consequences. Will the Liberals withdraw? There are no more pipelines. Bill C-69, yes or no?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, we're moving forward with a plan that's going to implement better rules to consider major project development in Canada. This includes an approach that's going to help restore the public confidence that was lost after 10 years under Stephen Harper, where they disrespected our environment and ignored the concerns of Canada's Indigenous people. I note in particular, Mr. Speaker, as we move forward with this important piece of legislation, we received an endorsement from the Assembly of First Nations just last week. We're moving forward with a plan that's going to bring certainty to the regulatory process, respect our environment, and give credence to the voices of Indigenous people.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
More than 30 Indigenous leaders are going to sue the Liberals over C-69, just like they're suing them over the tanker ban. And the fact is, when the Liberals were elected, 3 companies planned to build pipelines in Canada, but they're gone now because the Liberals chased every single one of them away. And not a single new inch of pipeline has been built under these Liberals. They are directly responsible for the discount on Canadian oil. Husky CEO says that discount will continue, quote, the rest of the year, all of next year, and all of the year after that. And there are no more pipelines. Bill C-69 will make that discount permanent. Will they withdraw? There are no more pipelines. Bill C-69, yes or no?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we're moving forward with a plan that's going to grow the economy and protect the environment at the same time. When it comes to getting our natural resources to market, they talk a good game, Mr. Speaker, but after 10 years, there's no more of our resources that are getting to non-U.S. markets than were when they first came into office. As I mentioned in my previous answer, Mr. Speaker, we're giving certainty to business, we're respecting our environment, and we're giving a voice to Indigenous people who were ignored for 10 years under Stephen Harper. Mr. Speaker, this represents better rules for development in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Mr. Speaker, a global investment survey placed 9 of the top 10 most attractive jurisdictions for oil and gas investment in the U.S. No Canadian province made that list. In fact, Enerplus's CEO announced that this year and next, they will spend 90% of their capital in the United States. The Liberals' No More Pipelines bill is making regulations even more complex and uncertain. When will the Prime Minister reverse course and kill Bill C-69?
The Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, there is $176 billion of potential investments over the next decade that are planned in the oil and gas sector. We are moving forward on expanding our pipeline capacity. We are the government that gave approval to Enbridge Line 3, which is under construction, that will add 470,000 per barrel per day capacity. We are moving forward on Trans Mountain Pipeline in the right way, undertaking consultation with the...
Order. The Honourable Member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals cancelled Northern Gateway, changed the rules on Energy East, and now TMX is in limbo. The lack of pipeline capacity has resulted in staggering discounts for Canadian oil, underscoring Canada's problem in attracting investment. To make matters worse, the government has proposed Bill C-69. It will increase uncertainty, politicize the regulatory process, and lengthen approval times. When will the Prime Minister reverse course on the No More Pipelines bill and kill C-69?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
So, Mr. Speaker, the current crisis that we are facing in Alberta, we absolutely understand. We are working toward solutions. But it's the cause of the decade of failure from previous government to build a single pipeline to non-U.S. markets. 99% of Alberta's oil is sold to one customer, which is the United States. When they got in office, that was the case. When they left office, that was the case. We are moving forward to expand our non-U.S. global markets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job. L'honorable député de Saint-Hyacinthe.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot. Mr. Speaker, the forced sterilization of Indigenous women is a flagrant violation of human rights. The Prime Minister keeps saying his top priority relationship is with Indigenous peoples. So, will he make sure to implement the recommendations of the UN Committee Against Torture? Will this government investigate, provide redress to the victims, hold those responsible accountable, and above all, pass legislation prohibiting the forced sterilization of Indigenous women? The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Important issue, and of course we agree with her that the forced or coerced sterilization of any woman in this country is a violation of that woman's rights, including her reproductive rights. We are working with provinces and territories, and we're working with healthcare providers and medical associations to make sure that the concept of informed consent is well understood and that culturally safe care is also well taught.
Honorable député d'Abitibi-Beijing.
The member for Abitibi, James Bay, Nunavik, AU.
Doing nothing is condoning the practice right now. The UN Committee Against Torture urges Canada to stop sterilization of Indigenous women by ensuring all allegations of forced sterilization are investigated, holding accountable the persons responsible, providing redress to the victims, and adopting legislative and policy measures to outlaw the forced sterilization. Simple question, Mr. Speaker. Will this minister implement the UN recommendations?
Minister of Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, the coerced or forced sterilization of any woman in this country is and always has been against the law, it is against medical ethics, and it is against human rights. We are working to make sure that this never happens again. We are working with medical associations and medical providers to make sure it never happens.
Honorable.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Palan. Mr. Speaker, the traditional drivers of growth are no longer enough in a digital economy. New technologies are changing the way we access information, shop, socialize, and work. Artificial intelligence helps doctors make more accurate diagnoses, helps farmers improve their crops, and helps find the shortest route home from work. Could the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development inform the House of the measures the government is taking to ensure Canada's place as a world leader in artificial intelligence?
The member for Vancouver Kingsway, not to be yelling when someone else has the floor. The Honourable Minister.
The Honourable Minister, Parliamentary Secretary. I'd like to thank the member for Alfred Palan for his question. Artificial intelligence is not only transforming our economy, it's changing our daily lives. Last week, at the G7 Multi-Stakeholder Conference on Artificial Intelligence, the Prime Minister announced the signing of the 5th Supercluster Agreement. Scale AI will use Canada's world-class AI resources to create over 16,000 jobs and contribute $16.5 billion to our GDP. Mr. Speaker, Canada is a leader in the responsible use of AI.
Today, Global News reported that a man who has been back in Canada for 2 years and has told reporters that he's been active as an ISIS terrorist has still not been arrested. This Prime Minister has failed to secure Canada's borders so badly that genocidal maniacs feel safe to brag to their friends about our Prime Minister's fecklessness. No unbeliever can touch me, Global reported. He texted his friend. Under this Prime Minister, is he right?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the police and security agencies of this country are far more proficient at securing the country and keeping Canadians safe than the alleged sources that are referred to by the opposition. The fact of the matter is, CSIS, the RCMP, the other security and police agencies of this country take every possible step to make sure that Canada is secure and the Canadians are safe. There is no higher obligation or priority.
Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Why aren't they doing their jobs? They've had 3 years to bring these terrorists to justice, and instead, they've paid for poetry lessons for them. They've tried to assist them in returning back to Canada. They've let them roam free without restriction or constant surveillance. They've introduced legislation that makes it harder to bring them to justice, and they've allowed them to become so confident that nothing is going to happen to them that they text their friends and say that no unbeliever can touch them. Why?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, every single item in that preamble is patently false. The fact of the matter is that every possible step is taken in relation to known terrorists to charge them and to prosecute them to the full extent of the law. There is also a full suite of other measures that the Government of Canada uses through the police, through our security agencies, through all of the departments and agencies of the Government of Canada to make sure that Canadians are safe in their homes and their communities, and we're doing.
L'Honorable Député Charles.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is working with the UN on signing the Compact on Migration in order to look good abroad, but he can't even control the breach of the border at La Colle. His irresponsible tweet of January 2017 sparked a wave of illegal immigration to Canada, but he doesn't have the courage to admit it. Meanwhile, Quebec and Ontario are still waiting for reimbursement. Processing times are still growing and the system's broken. His immigration program is a total failure. When is he going to make our borders safe? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, our support for this compact will allow us to do precisely what the member opposite is asking for. We're working with the international community to better manage our borders, to make sure that when people come to our country, they come in the normal way. Canada is at the forefront of global migration issues, and we'll be at the table giving our support to this compact so that everyone has the same tools as Canada has to deal with this issue. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the other countries of the world are concerned because we really aren't in a position to lecture anyone on how to manage our borders or their borders right now. The chaos at the border continues because of the Prime Minister's lack of courage. The program is a total failure. The cost of the federal government alone is over $1 billion, and the province's bill is for over half that. What's more, thousands of illegal migrants have disappeared into the woodwork. Can the Prime Minister tell us when he's going to stop playing games with Canadian safety? The Honourable Minister.
The fact is that we have been working diligently to uphold Canadian law for everyone who comes to our border, regardless of how they come to this country seeking asylum, to ensure that our laws are applied. Mr. Speaker, we also take very, very strict measures to ensure that the safety and security of Canadians is maintained. And that work continues. And, Mr. Speaker, we've achieved tremendous success. We've seen a significant reduction. We did not see the surge that occurred last year as a direct result of very effective measures taken by this government to discourage irregular migration.
Order. The honourable member for Vancouver East.
Mr. claims that survivors and family members are at the heart of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Inquiry. Yet aftercare for those who relived the trauma by testifying was a disaster. Many did not even know aftercare existed, and those who did had a difficult time accessing it. Soledad, a survivor from my riding, struggled to the point where she lost her job. Her aftercare plan fell through twice, and my office had to intervene in order for her to get the support she needed. Family members like Lorelei Williams don't even offer aftercare. How is this putting survivors and family members at the heart of the inquiry?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to ending the ongoing national tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The Independent Commission's mandate was clear that the families had to be at the center of their work. We are working. Aftercare was very much part of the plan of the Commission and of their budget. After the interim report, we increased the money for healing. We will continue to do whatever it is to support those families.
I remind the honourable member for Vancouver East that her opportunity to speak is when she has the floor, not when someone else is speaking. The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
17-year-old Braden Jacob came to Thunder Bay for grief counseling, and now he's dead. And he joins 14-year-old Josiah Beggs and 17-year-old Tammy Kiash and 15-year-old Jordan Wabass and so many other Indigenous youth who died violently in Thunder Bay. And they were victimized after being forced to leave their communities because the government refuses to build proper schools or provide services. So to the Minister for Public Safety, will he commit an RCMP team to work with Indigenous leaders to find out why so many young Indigenous youth are dying in Thunder Bay? No more fallen feathers.
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member opposite for raising this solemn issue. Our hearts go out to the family of Braden, and we are grieving with that community. I reached out to the chief today. I also spoke to the Grand Chief of the region to express our condolences. The community where Braden is from, the community of Webequie, is an area where we have made significant investments in mental wellness care. We will continue to make those investments. This is for all Canadians to work together to bring justice and ensure the safety of Indigenous youth.
Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, news is breaking right now that Michael Rafferty, the other cold-blooded killer of Tory Stafford, was moved to a facility with a lower level of security back in March. That was after Terry Lynn McClintock was moved to a healing lodge, a decision which the Liberals had to reverse because of widespread outrage from Canadians. Now, Mr. Speaker, can the minister tell us if this is true? Is Michael Rafferty behind bars where he belongs, or is he in a cushy healing lodge somewhere in the woods?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I would remind the opposition that the decisions taken with respect to McClintock were in fact taken by the previous government when the classification was moved from maximum security to medium security. I will examine the facts of this case to ensure that all the proper rules and procedures have been followed and that Canadians are safe.
Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicollet.
Mr. Speaker, it seems like the only Canadians not concerned about the threat Huawei poses to our mobile network are sitting in the Liberal benches. This is a major security threat, and this government refuses to do anything about it. A former security advisor to this Prime Minister has said, and I quote, "Once Huawei is in, we will never get them out." The time has come to make a decision. We either stand with our Western democratic allies or with Communist China. Mr. Speaker, which one will it be?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker,
of this side of the House, we will never compromise our national security. We remain open to global investment. We understand that 5G is an emerging technology, Mr. Speaker, that has the potential to meet the explosion in consumer and industrial demand, and we want to make sure that Canadians have access to this latest technology in terms of quality and coverage. Our communication security establishment, Mr. Speaker, provided us with guidance on the 4G network, and they will continue to do so with 5G. And as is always the case, Mr. Speaker, we will follow the advice of our public security officials and never compromise security in Canada.
Honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have a long history of attacking rural communities in Alberta. First, they moved jobs from Vegreville, and now they are taking aim at Cold Lake. Last week, we have learned the Liberals are planning to move the aerospace engineering test establishment from Cold Lake to Ottawa.
Oh, no.
Will the minister cancel this plan to kill jobs in CFB Cold Lake?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for the question, but I also thank him for meeting with me last week to discuss this very important issue, where we discussed that Canadian Air Force plays a very important role in NORAD missions and will continue to play a very important role. And in fact, we are actually increasing our investments into Cold Lake, including making important upgrades to infrastructure. Both CFB Bagotville and Cold Lake will benefit from decisions to require the fighter jet to replace our CF-18, both through the interim and to the future fighter, Mr. Speaker. And I'm happy to carry on the discussion. In fact, I actually spoke with the mayor this morning, this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, and we'll continue.
The Honourable member for Order for Scarborough Centre.
Mr. Speaker, by failing to ensure economic equality for a woman, we are not only missing out as a society, but as an economy. A McKinsey Global Institute report estimates that women's economic equality could add $150 billion to Canada's GDP by 2026. But women face barriers to full labour market participation, such as gender-based discrimination, patriarchal attitudes, and lack of training. Could the minister please explain how this government is actually helping women and how the women's entrepreneurship strategy is working to help women overcome these challenges?
The Honourable Minister.
I thank the Honourable Member from Scarborough Centre for her question. Small businesses make up 99% of all businesses in Canada, and yet only 16% are women-owned or women-led, and they face unique barriers. This is why we recently invested $85 million in a women's ecosystem fund to help support those women entrepreneurs, and another $20 million to help those women grow their businesses. By advancing women's economic participation, we can add up to $150 billion in GDP to the Canadian economy by 2026. Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, when women succeed, everyone succeeds. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, last Friday, the National Assembly unanimously called for the contract for the Obelix supply ship to go to Davie Shipyards. The Prime Minister's failure to recognize that our men and women in uniform need a second supply ship is unacceptable. Davie Shipyards in Lévis knows how to build these ships on time within budget. Mr. Speaker, the government's management of this file is an abject failure. Will the Prime Minister make the only logical decision today and award Davie the Obelix contract? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government is producing results for Canadians by providing Coast Guard and the Navy with the equipment they need to serve Canadians. Through our national supply strategy, our government is creating good jobs for the middle class. We have granted 17% of our contracts for a value of over $1.3 billion to Quebec companies. We are producing results for Quebecers and Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, incidents of cyclist deaths are increasing in Canada, and just last week a man was killed here in Ottawa while cycling on the street. Other tragic deaths in Vancouver, Toronto, and Port Alberni and elsewhere show the urgent need for cycling safety and better infrastructure in our municipalities. And the FCM recently voted 95% in favour of a national active transportation strategy. It's been 2 years since the Liberals created a cycling committee, which produced a single report but no action. Will the Liberal government immediately introduce a national cycling strategy or continue to do nothing?
Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I fully recognize the issue of vulnerable road users, whether they're cyclists or actually people on foot, and that is why I have been working with the provinces, and we came out with a report last September after extensive consultations across the country, and I will be speaking to my fellow transport ministers in January on this very important matter.
The honourable member for Brome-Missisquoi. Mr. Speaker, tourism is an important economic driver for our communities from coast to coast to coast. In my riding, our countryside, our environment, and our lakes are a big attraction. The industry employs more than 1.8 million Canadians and is growing rapidly around the world with economic benefits of more than $8 trillion and annual growth of 4%. Can the Minister of Official Languages and the Francophonie inform this House of the measures the government is taking to ensure that Canada reaps its fair share of this booming global market in order to create even more jobs? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Brome-Missisquoi for his excellent question. We're proud to support the over 1.8 million Canadians who work in tourism. We're not just proud, but that industry should be recognized for its true worth. We are doing what we can to capitalize on the potential of this huge industry to create up to 180,000 new jobs in the years to come.
The Prime Minister promised that his policies would attract the jobs of the future. Oshawa's auto workers want those jobs. Mr. Speaker, auto manufacturers have announced that they will be building the electric and autonomous cars of the future somewhere. Oshawa workers are ready, willing, and able. They just want a chance to be competitive, a chance to bid on those jobs. So, will the Prime Minister announce his plan for Oshawa workers by Christmas? Yes or no?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we obviously feel for the workers in Oshawa and their families. We have invested, Mr. Speaker, a great deal in the auto sector in Ontario. Almost $400 million investment on our part has generated over $1 billion, Mr. Speaker, in investments in the auto sector, in the car of the future. We're confident moving forward, Mr. Speaker, that Ontario will play a great role in the auto of the future, and Mr. Speaker, will continue to support the workers in Oshawa in the meantime.
The honourable member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec Premier was categorical. When it comes to Alberta's dirty energy, Quebec will have none of it. We don't want any pipelines crossing our rivers and no trains going through our towns. Will the Prime Minister get it through his head that in order to sell oil sands oil, it won't be going through Quebec? Not by pipeline, not by train either. Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, in the last federal election campaign, we made a commitment to grow the economy and protect the environment at the same time, and that's what we're doing. In particular, Mr. Speaker, we're moving forward with a piece of legislation that's going to overhaul the environmental assessment project to ensure that we're able to get our resources to new markets while at the same time mitigating the negative environmental consequences that can come when development happens in an irresponsible way. We're moving forward with a plan that's going to allow major projects to go forward, get our resources to new markets, and protect our environment, all the while incorporating feedback of our Indigenous people.
The honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, speaking of trains, Via Rail, a Crown corporation, is choosing Berlin over La Pocatière for work that can be done here at home. Quebecers' money is being spent on Quebec companies' competitors. We are proud of our workers, Mr. Speaker, and we support them. Will the Minister of Transport call on Via to revisit its decision and award the contract to a company from here at home? The Honourable Minister of Transport. As I've repeatedly said, Via Rail is choosing between to replace trains between Quebec and Windsor in that corridor. It's a Crown corporation. It works at arm's length, and it has to respect our free trade deals, in this case, our free trade deal with Europe, and we have to respect the rules, the World Trade Organization. You have to play by the rules when you're a party to these types of agreements.
Mr. Speaker, the government says it will consider helping Alberta buy tanker cars. That's welcome news, and I trust that the same offer will be extended to Saskatchewan. Transport in our region is limited not only for oil, but also for people. The Southern Prairies currently have neither passenger rail nor bus service. Will the government consider restoring Via Rail service between Winnipeg, Regina, and Calgary to help the Prairies get back on track?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, Via Rail, of course, is responsible for passenger traffic across this country. It must do so based on a number of factors. At the moment, as you know, Via Rail does pass through Saskatchewan. The Canadian goes from the eastern part of Canada all the way to Vancouver. So Via Rail, as far as I know, still goes through Saskatchewan.